Hi, this is Doug Bradley, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, and you are listening to Without Your Head. And you'd better keep listening to Without Your Head, or you will not only be without your head, you will be without your soul, because I will tear it apart.
Welcome to the station of decapitation, withoutyourhead.com. I am Nasty Neil.
And I am Annabelle Lecteur.
And we are joined by the artist of the month, friend of the show. He's an actor, photographer. He's done it all. But tonight we're going to talk about his music, and that is Tim Dry.
Hello, I'm artist of the month, but now I'm homeless because of situations all gone badly wrong. So I've become an alcoholic and a transvestite. I look nice. Hello.
So that's how you're making your way now, transvestite.
Yeah, you know, I've got to leave by 6. You know, go down to the Charing Cross station. You know, to get my free food and maybe pick up a nice sort of butch sailor from Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm. Neil gets a lot of approaches when I pick him up from North Station train station.
I bet he does.
He does.
Yeah, I do. Indeed. I also tend to the transvestites do like me at the conventions.
It's always a bitch getting size 10.5 shoes, though, I find. But you know, hey, moving right along now. Question number 1 comes from
what
Brian.
Size shoes do you wear?
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned Artist of the Month here, and we talked to you lots of times on the show about, films and different projects, and it's really cool to see a different side of you, and everyone get to hear your music, and people have really been enjoying it too, listening to the program.
Have they? That's good.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think when did we last speak? Was it February?
I think so. Yeah, because you were one of the first of the year.
Yeah.
So it sounds about right.
Entire civilizations have risen and fallen since February, haven't they? Mm-hmm. But I think I may have gone into at great length my strange disability of having a very short attention span.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's what causes this need to, okay, what can I do now? But I mean, I got my first guitar when I was 13, and, I wanted to be Pete Townsend or, Clapton. And I became a good lead guitarist, but I could never sit and sing you a song, around a campfire. Mm-hmm. Michael row the boat. Shut up.
So no acoustic sets?
Nah. No, I'm Tim Dry Unplugged. Fuck off. I like to be wired in to the mainstream, man. But no, I always, every boy wants a band, don't they, really? Well, they did. I don't know whether they still do.
I think they still do.
They just want to be on X Factor, But,
they want a band that's totally over the computer.
Yeah, well,
100%.
Back in...
There's no old school.
Early 60s, mid-60s, let's be honest. Everybody wanted to be a guitarist in their bedroom with a tennis racket, so you'd practice your moves and you'd maybe actually get a guitar.
Off the bed and
do all that E-slide. Ow, sorry, Mum. Ruin the carpet. Keep the noise down up there. Trying to get some kit, But we all wanted to be a lead guitarist, so that's what I opted for. I didn't want to sit there and bang out Dylan songs,
Well, you've got to do that or be into the singing to get all.
I still can't sing and play the guitar at the same time. And people think, I don't
think I could do it either.
You can play the guitar. It's
I've always wanted to do drumming, and there's no way. I do not have the coordination.
There's no way what? You got the coordination.
To drum. I would love to drum, but I don't have the coordination. My brain is too all over the place.
How do you know? You haven't tried.
I have.
Oh,
and I'm not good at it. Maybe if I had a good teacher to show me the way.
If I had a hammer, I'd smack it over Leonard Nimoy's head for making that single.
The Hobbit one?
No, he's the version of If I Had a Hammer.
Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
Of course you are.
Yes, I could have it on my MP3 player. Yes.
Good.
Who's
moving right along
If
now.
I Had a Hammer song. I remember Peter, Paul, and Mary did it.
Exactly. It was one of those ghastly things like Michael row the boat ashore. It's all very practical, isn't it? It's like if I had a hammer, I could build an ark, or I could build a boat, and then Michael could maybe row it to the shore, because we've been adrift for 5 fucking weeks now.
Quite a story you're telling there.
Isn't it, just?
Gary?
I don't know if I should, because I told him.
Kumbaya as well. That was the other one we had to learn when you first get a guitar. It's G-A-D, D-D-D.
Do you do hot cross buns?
They do, though, don't they, though? It was horrible. I hated all that. And then, do you remember Donovan?
Yes. Sunshine Superman. I love that song, actually.
Sunshine came softly.
I do love that song.
Window to
If you don't like it, I accept. But
I had every album of Donovan's, and I liked him because he was Scottish, and he decided. I think he heard very early Dylan, and he decided to hitchhike round the UK with a guitar on his back with his best friend called Gypsy Dave. And
that's
as a
very
13-year-old, I thought, wow, that is like so cool.
Yeah.
Because I was only 13,
cool
I couldn't do that, But he would literally pull in, we'd hitchhike, so somebody else would pull in, not him, into a tiny village in Cornwall. And they'd make a fire from dead badgers and stuff. And they'd sit there and play guitars and sing. How many roads must a man walk down? And I thought, wow, I'd like that. But I couldn't ever learn the finger picking stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a strummer, but I couldn't sing at the same time. Still can't. So I became an electric guitarist, man. And my first band was called Cosmic Stoat. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still there?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. What on earth was I thinking of? But when you're 18, you've got a band together and you think, right, got to think of a name, man. God's Holy Trousers. Nah, that's a bit clumsy, isn't it? This is pre-T-shirts, you didn't think about the logo. It was just like, we've got to be called something,
I think that would be a great piece of art to make the Cosmic Stoat. I could see that being excellent.
I mean, Cosmic, yes, obviously we're all stoned out of our gourds most of the time, but Cosmic Stoat is like, hello, couldn't have been Cosmic Leopard or, Panther, could it?
It's
no. Cosmic Stoat. We played 3 gigs, and the first one we blew all the fuses, so we had to stop.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that because you turned it up to 11, or was the place just not wired for sound?
Town hall in my hometown, and it's like, well, can't handle this. The second one, we played 2 numbers. We didn't have a singer, so it was all instrumental. And the sort of guy who was running the event came up to us and said, would you guys mind stopping now, because we want to play some music? Thank you. We'll get our coats.
Fantastic.
And I remember I was wearing my plastic snakeskin boots and maroon velvet trousers. And my hair came down to my chest. And I was so cool. But we never got a singer, so it was just all instrumental. And they're all copies of another band's songs as well, to make it even more degrading, Mm-hmm. So that was my 1970 venture. I had a band and thought, okay, stuff it.
So how old were you then when you did that, though?
How old was I?
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, fine.
You
got to start somewhere, Tim. Look what's happened since.
Used to jam with people, man, in my hometown. Mm-hmm. And I had a memorable moment. My friend Julian that I was at art school with, he's on Facebook, actually. Oh, won't tell him your real name. But he had a tape recorder and he worked out how to do this sort of halftime feedback echo thing. So he'd be the sort of Brian Eno and I'd be the, whatever, with my guitar. And we never played anywhere apart from his bedroom, but it was terribly exciting. We were called Ziggurat. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I can imagine. The Ziggy Stardust and the cigarette.
Yeah, but suggestive of the sort of crumbled Mayan civilization, and wonderful architecture. But it was bollocks. We never played.
You went to Ziggurat, not so much. Okay.
Anyway, so that was it for most of the 70s. I got on with other things, So it was only in the 80s when all of a sudden the group I was in, Shock, had a record contract with RCA. It's like, what? And then it was like, I should try and write some songs, shouldn't I? So our producer, Richard James Burgess, had a band called Landscape, and they were pretty popular on the sort of electro, jazzy, funky kind of area. Mm-hmm. And so I started writing with him. I'd give him lyrics, and he'd craft a sort of backing track, you know. And that's how it all started, really. That's how my recording career.
You said, you know, the Shock had they came upon a record contract, but how did the band itself form?
Well, what happened was that we were this incredibly sort of vibrant visual act that combined other people's music, mime, dance, theatre, burlesque, whatever. And we were very, very popular. But these two guys, Rusty Egan, who had a band called Visage, and he was in a band called the Rich Kids with Glenn from the Sex Pistols before that, and Richard Burgess decided to make an instrumental backing track for this song called Angel Face, which was a song by the Glitter Band. Do any of you guys remember them?
I do not.
No, okay. Well, you must have heard of Gary Glitter.
Did they have a song that we would recognize?
Well, this one I'm about to mention. Angel Face. You're a child of sweet 16, never made the big time scene. Nope. Okay. Anyway, they were Gary Glitter's backing band, and then when they split up, they made a couple of singles, and this was a glam rock song from '73. So these two drummers, both Rusty and Richard were drummers, so they decided to make an electronic version of Angel Face. Then they thought, well, this is great, but we need someone to front it. So somehow they got hold of us and said, would you guys, as a group, like to front the record that we've made? So we said yes. And somehow Shock got a deal with RCA. But they, we hadn't made a note of our own music. But this is where I saw my opportunity. So I jumped in there with Richard and we started writing songs. So it's very interesting for me because most of the 70s were just, I was listening to music, not making it at all,
No, when you started to write music, what is it, like stuff that was already in your head, or more like poetry? How did you what kind of stuff would you write about?
Well, the first thing we did together was a song called Dynamo Beat, and it was the idea of a man sort of masturbating over a image of a girl on a TV screen. Mm-hmm. Hence the title, Screen Me, I'm Yours, Uh-huh. Make me beg, make me crawl, show me pictures 10 feet tall, And it's like, okay, well, let's go pervy. I had no idea what Richard would come out with as a backing track, but what he did come out with was, I didn't really like it that much. I wanted it to be more sleazy, more... Because we're now in 1980, where music in England has suddenly got really sexy, with Soft Cell, Culture Club. Duran hadn't arrived yet, but I mean, it was all that sort of discovery of new music coming from Europe, and Kraftwerk, obviously, Visage, Bowie, of course, and so Human League, especially, their first two albums before they went global were really experimental. That was the thing. Everything was very experimental, Mm-hmm. And we'd heard...
Well, I can imagine all this electronic, everything comes into play, and then it's just take off from there.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, for me, guitars were suddenly, oh, shit, what do I do now? So we had other people to do the music, and it was hours and hours of them programming early sequences, So we'd go into the studio to do the vocals on a Shock track, and, 5 hours later... Because it was all mechanics, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, hitting buttons, counting out metronomically every beat of every bar. And I thought, this is not music, is it? But the end result was extraordinary, to be able to program something, and then you could just play it back at will and change it and do this and do that. So, and we, at the same time, we were hanging out in the new romantic clubs in London. Boy George was the cloakroom attendant at Blitz, and Spandau Ballet would hang out there, and all these people that were about to become huge, much huger than we ever were. But we were all there at the same time. It's a magic moment. It would be like being in swinging London in 1966, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's very exciting, but it suddenly rekindled this idea that maybe I could actually make music. Not just ponce about with a guitar in front of 5 people and a dog, you know. Mm-hmm. At the end of it was just the dog. You know, hey, I really like this. Ruff! His owners are gone, you know. But no, suddenly it was like this is. I don't have to try and emulate Pete Townsend or the Beatles or anything like that, which is way beyond my grasp, obviously. But it was the idea that suddenly, like punk, anybody could make music if they got a synthesizer, they got a drum machine, and they had a right haircut or something. You know, it was very exciting indeed. And that's where it started for me, actually recording music. I mean, I never thought I'd do that, you know. But in those days, obviously, you're in an airless wood-paneled room with a producer who is a vegetarian. So the sort of fart meter went into the red every time he'd had lunch. You know, it's like, oh, okay, thank you. Just nipping out for a bit of fresh air right now. But I just thought, wow, what a weird environment. It's totally unnatural. You're completely enclosed in like a fallout shelter, you know.
You know, how different when you're doing that kind of music, a lot of electronic and stuff, between, you know, recording it and performing it live?
Well, we never performed it live because the whole thing about Shock and then Tik and Tok was that we would sing live over backing tapes. So we were a very portable outfit. And that's why Gary Numan asked us to support him at his farewell shows at Wembley, because we weren't a band with, you know, roadies showing their bum cracks and leads and amplifiers and, you know, all the paraphernalia that a band has. We didn't have any of that. We had a reel-to-reel tape recorder and a lighting designer. So we were good to go. You know, we didn't have to have endless sound checks, you know.
Hey, this is Kevin Pollak, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com. But I guess you knew that, didn't you? Unless, of course, you lost your head.
You asked if I play an instrument. And last year when Annabelle and I went to Woodstock, and we both bought a ukulele.
Whoa!
But I thought it was cool at the time. Like, I'm gonna buy this ukulele in Woodstock and learn to play it. And I haven't learned to play it yet, so no, I did not play an instrument.
It's a bitch to learn to play. It's got a very narrow fretboard, and if you've got, you know, man-sized fingers,
yes, I do.
It's like Jesus. You know, I mean, I had a mandolin, which is, you know, same sort of size, and it's very hard to bang out anything, really.
Yeah.
But a ukulele, that's a really strange sort of instrument to choose to buy.
You know, I thought it would, because I do, but I usually just use other people's music, and I'll make up my own lyrics and do kind of silly songs, kind of cover song, but you make up my own lyrics. And I did think it would be fun to have an instrument to, even just to play a little bit and be able to do something like that on my own. But so I thought that would be funny to be playing the ukulele. But what would you recommend someone, you know, for like a first-time instrument?
Oh, God. Well, I suppose the guitar is always a favorite, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you get it right, you can sound like, you know, anybody with Slash or Noel Gallagher or Clapton or anybody. You know, there's this sort of sex appeal to it. Jimi Hendrix, if you're really dedicated. But it's something that even if you don't go electric, you can still stick it on your back and turn up somewhere and bang out songs that people know. It's very hard to bang out a song on a ukulele. You know, although having said that, you know, George Harrison of the Beatles was a great ukulele player. Although he never played it on any Beatles record. But I don't know, harmonica is quite good. But of course these days...
I also have a kazoo.
The kazoo?
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, that's probably about as simple as you can get.
I'm not even very good on the kazoo, so maybe I'm just.
Come on! If you can hum a tune, you can play the kazoo, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You sound like you're eating a sandwich, but hey.
I'm not eating a sandwich.
Are you sure?
I could really go for a sandwich.
I would like to eat a sandwich, but there is no sandwich present.
Oh damn!
I live in Sandwich.
Maybe you want chop suey instead. Spring roll.
Tim, will you talk a little bit, Tim? Because I'm not sure how well I can hear you. Now.
Did you hear that? Oh, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1. Boom, 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 boom. Can you hear him? Thrown like a star in my vast sleep, I open my eyes to take a peep. Hello?
Better than it was. This is better than it was, so let's go with this.
Okay.
Right. Now you sound like a very old lady chewing a poodle. But hey, look, you ask me the question and I'll be the one with the shouty voice.
So what we're talking about the ukulele, we're talking about the kazoo, and now I think we'll go back to shock.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about me.
Yes.
Yes.
So you know, it's like a big production. You guys are playing the music, and then you guys are doing the burlesque and doing all the different things on stage, and now how quickly did that blow up? Like,
what do you mean blow up in a good way?
Yes. Not like someone like planted a bomb.
Incredibly quickly. I mean, it's a very strange year. 1980, we started off. We were still doing horrible small nightclubs in London. You know, there was only 5 of us at that point. And then we got Sean involved, who was another mime artist. And all of a sudden we got a manager who managed this dance group called Hot Gossip. And they were very popular because they were on TV. And they had lots of girls with fishnets and corsets and stuff. And whatever gigs they didn't want to do, that we got. And one of them was 10 days in Bangkok in a nightclub. We thought, sod it. Okay, we're doing that. And this was all before we got the record deal. So we went from being a sort of cabaret disco group to being at the cutting edge of new romantic electronic music in about 6 months. It was very weird.
Wow.
Had you been out of the country a lot, before that, before you started touring with Shock?
Only on holidays. Yeah, never professionally at all.
No,
so suddenly Shock... Sorry?
Sorry, I was just going to say, do you think that, I mean, it makes sense to me that the draw to your group was not only your sound, but that you offered, I assume, a very different performance on stage than most of these other people.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, way back then, we decided that we had to define ourselves as the first band without any instruments. Because if you say we're a group, people think, oh, where's the drummer? Where's the bass player? Where's the... Yeah. So we said, no, we're a group, but we don't play any instruments. We have a tape recorder. That's our instrument. So all of a sudden, this was very refreshing. I mean, I didn't think it was that original, because people have been doing that since the 60s as a kind of performance thing. You'd have a tape recorder and cover yourself in baked beans or something, That's performance art. It's like, look at me, I'm arty, and I'm naked. Oh, darling. But suddenly people are thinking, oh, this is great. We can get this group into our club, and we don't have to have drum kits and guitars and all that shit,
Yeah.
So we're very popular. So we're in Bangkok for 12 days. Now, that was a particularly bizarre experience on every level, which I probably won't go into here, but it's all in my book, folks. Falling Upwards, Scenes from a Life, available now on Amazon by Tim Dry. God, I became David Lee Roth for a second. That's weird, isn't it? Look at my mouth. So, yes, we were very available, very easy, to work with. And London, of course, suddenly from 79, 80 became club culture rather than gig culture.
Mm-hmm.
So the place to hang out to get your jollies or whatever was in a nightclub, not watching a horrible, antiquated band on a stage and jammed in with other people, and it was very exciting. In fact, today I posted up some pictures of myself on stage in '82 and stuff, and it was just you realize that it was a very exciting time, not just fashionably, because there were lots of designers involved, but it was, for me, I was far too young to be involved in the swinging 60s. So this was my brush with what swinging London must have been like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But all these
it's like such a fun era to be in because it seems so playful.
Yeah.
There's so much amazing music from the 60s through the 70s, but there's so much variety and the freedom. It seems there's so much more freedom to express yourself visually.
Yes, absolutely. I think the thing was that, up until the death of punk, if you like, it was still guitar, bass, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
As a live band, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, ding, 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 Suddenly, when the synthesizer became cheap and available, guys who couldn't afford a guitar or didn't want to have a whole band or whatever could buy a little synth and create these extraordinary sounds in their bedroom. And that suddenly it became very available and very like an underground club. I remember interviews with bands like Orchestral Manoeuvres and Human League, and they all say, because they all come from provincial towns in England. Human League came from Sheffield, which is a steel mining town, and Orchestral Manoeuvres came from Liverpool, and it was all like, hey, we thought we were the only people doing this. Oh, shit, there's guys in Sheffield and Birmingham and London. But all of a sudden, all of these people that had been pioneering and experimenting in different parts of England all seemed to come together and gravitate towards London, and suddenly there was this whole scene. It sort of happened like mushrooms overnight, So the whole punk thing had been seen to be really nothing more than a kind of fashionable excuse. There's a couple of exceptions. I think Joe Strummer had his heart in the right place. But mainly it was a bandwagon that people were very willing to jump on, But suddenly there was something new. It was no one had used synthesizers in that respect before. The Beatles used them on Abbey Road, but it was like a texture rather than a lead instrument. That's what makes the difference, you see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the stylophone or something, something that was a gimmick on a few songs suddenly became the whole song.
Yeah, and like when George Harrison would use the sitar to kind of change up the sound, as opposed to really this is all created through this one sound, this one instrument, more or less.
We've done everything we can do with the guitar. Now what? And punk came along and said, fuck it, let's just go back to 3 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, A, D, whatever. E, A, B. Suddenly it's like, okay, we've done
and
that.
Yell. Not necessarily saying you can yell. Yell and play 3 chords.
Yeah.
And be mad at people.
Okay, so all the record companies thinking, this is great, we can milk this one. And then all of a sudden, you got... I went to see the Human League in 1979. They were playing in a sort of pub venue in West London, and they had a tape recorder on stage and Phil Oakey, the singer. And that was it. I thought, fucking hell, wow. A tape recorder is your band. So you have to imagine that like a year later, this is where Shock thought, hey, we can do this, because we wanted to use other people's music. We wanted to have Kate Bush. We wanted to have Talking Heads. We wanted to have, Tomita and so we just nicked all of it and just stuck it on a reel-to-reel tape recorder and did our dances and mimes to that.
Where did are you like the inventor of the robotic dance? No.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, you must know these guys, or maybe you're too young, but in America on TV, there were a couple, man and wife, husband and wife, called Shields and Yarnell. Do you remember them?
I do not.
Well,
would they have been in a television program?
Yeah. They used to do a lot of TV shows. They were like a domestic couple. That was their act, but they'd be robots. So they'd be having breakfast, pouring out the milk for the cornflakes, going for the toast, I never saw it, but Barbie Wilde, who I met at Mime Class in the 1977, she'd seen all that because she kind of grew up with it. They were sort of like a staple on US TV in the early to mid 70s, so, but I never knew this, but our mime tutor taught us how to isolate every part of our body separately from others. And that led to this robotic movement where you could become completely like a machine. So when Barbie and I joined Shock, we utilized that technique with the idea of Shields and Yarnell as being a kind of personable robotic couple. Because Barbie and I had become a couple in real life. So we had a duo act together, and we thought, well, we're actually being the English Shields and Yarnell. And so, to answer your question, we were I would say that in Shock, we were the first people to incorporate the robot as an art form. And then obviously later on it became very, very popular, and that's when Sean and I decided to distance ourselves from it.
Yeah.
But yes, it was something very exciting. It's very exciting. Well, we didn't even think it to be like that. It was just like, okay, we got 3 dancers in the group who are flinging themselves about and doing all this ding, ding, ding stuff. And Barbie and I thought, okay, well, let's do less. So when they're really frenetically going apeshit in front, let's be the still things at the back that are just doing this kind of odd mechanical movement, And when Sean
it's interesting to go along with the synthesizer effect because it really is, it's a machine. And you are bringing that sense of humanity to it through the art. So it just seems to go together perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Shock, which is why it worked briefly so well, was that Robert, who was the founder, and Laurie Ann, his girlfriend, were entrenched in disco music, but whereas Barbie and I had come from, theater and mime. And so you put the two together, you got the flamboyant sort of 4/4 thing of disco, but this mechanical, impersonal element of mime, and you put the two together, it's like, wow, look at these lot. Because you can either look at Robert and LA doing the sort of, it's like a sort of cosmic jive dancing they were doing. And there's Barbie and I being these sort of weird, sort of machine-like creatures in the background, So it's inevitable that it will work really well.
You said, briefly, how long did Shock last?
To be perfectly honest, we started in late summer 79. As an actual 6-piece band, we lasted from mid-summer 79 through to midsummer 81, when Robert and his girlfriend LA decided to leave, which they announced on stage at our first headlining gig in London. We struggled on as a 4-piece until probably February 1982. But
now, in that time, didn't you you played with Gary Numan?
Yeah.
At Wembley. That's pretty awesome. That's amazing.
It was.
For people who don't recognize Gary Numan's name, you have to know the song from the 80s called Cars. And if you don't recognize it, you YouTube it and you will know. Yeah, that was number one. And Our Friends Electric, down in the park. He was major. He became, at 19 years old, he became England's biggest pop star. It's like, what? That's amazing.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
I don't know. Well, he was, not an attractive guy, really, if we're totally honest. But he saw a gap in the market, and he thought, you know what, there hasn't been a solo pop star for many years, probably since Bowie. I could do that. He's a guy from West London who loved Bowie, and he loved Roxy, and he loved Kraftwerk, and he put all this stuff together, bless him, you know, in his bedroom, and thought, you know what, I could fucking do this. And he did it. And he became enormously popular, almost overnight. And that's what fucked him up, really, because it happened so quickly. There's nowhere to hide. You're in the eye of the hurricane, you know, and you're in Tokyo, you're in LA, you're in boom, you know, and everybody wants a piece. And suddenly it's like, whoa, I'm only 20 years old. I can't, you know. So he decided to retire. Okay, so he probably pinched that from Bowie, you know, back in 73. But he did these 3 massive gigs at Wembley Arena, which is London, or was London's biggest venue. It holds 7,000 people. And Shock were doing a gig in this small club, but very, very hip, decadent club. It's like not Studio 54, something smaller than Studio 54, you know, but where all the hip kids go to hang out and shoot up and shoot each other or whatever. We're doing a gig, and we do our gig, and we're in the bar afterwards, and we see Gary Numan standing there holding a can of Coke, because he doesn't drink, you know, or didn't. And you think, fucking hell, it's Gary Numan, bloody hell. And he comes up and he says, hey, I really love your act. I'm doing these shows at Wembley Arena in a couple of weeks. Would you like to be my support act? It's like, oh, fuck off. You know, that does not happen, does it? But he said, seriously, you're the perfect support band. And so we said, yep.
Yeah,
so we did
that's amazing. Because I'm sure neither of you were really there at the same night ever. That's incredible.
Very weird, because Gary never went to clubs. I don't know how he ended up in the Embassy Club, but it was just like synchronicity, man. But before we did the Wembley shows, which were in April 1981, 33 years ago, we were invited to do 12 nights at the Ritz in New York.
Wow.
Now, the Ritz was probably the hippest nightclub in New York, you know, live venue in New York. Young Madonna used to hang out there with Jelly Bean and all these people. And we were on a bill with Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Do you remember these guys?
What did they do?
Oh, God, you guys are so young.
What did they make? I know a lot of music from that era and older, so Google. You got a song.
For God's sake. Annie, I'm Not Your Daddy. Kid Creole was a sort of mulatto guy who used to wear zoot suits and look really cool, and he had a sidekick called Coty Mundi and 3 Coconuts who were his backing girls. They were huge. They were very big in England as well. They didn't necessarily have major hit records, but they were hip.
Yeah.
They looked cool. They were sort of throwback to sort of a kind of Cuban pimp, Latino kind of groove kind of music, but with electronics. They were produced by Don Was, you know, and all these people. Okay, but we're doing 12 nights in the Ritz at New York, and we come back from that to do Gary Numan's show at Wembley. So we were hot. You know, when you work as much as we did, there were nights in New York we didn't go on stage until 3 a.m. You know, for English people, that's like fucking hell. I mean, we had a few sort of, well, certainly Sean and I had a few helping hands, shall we say, you know, to get through all that. But so coming through custom back into England, we were really ripe. And so when we did Numan shows at Wembley, we were the best we've ever been. You know, it was extraordinary. And the deal was that if we did 2 numbers with Gary in his set, they would film our set for nothing. So this is 3 or 4 camera proper shoot job, you know.
So it's completely ideal for that point in your history.
It was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But what happened then so after Gary Numan, we were very hot, very popular. And then, you see, Robert Perino, I don't want to diss the guy too much, but I mean, he's got the attention span of a fruit fly, so what happened was...
For you to say that must be a big deal.
Oh, really?
Well, you've admitted that you are a very short attention span man.
But yes, no, you're absolutely right, Nonnie. That's, yes, I look like Methuselah compared to Robert, but he really is... Whoa, that was 5 minutes ago, been there, done that. So he announces that he and his girlfriend are leaving the group at the very height of our success.
Wow.
So that caused a somewhat vicious rupture, if you like.
Yeah.
But Sean and I had already...
What's his reasoning behind this? I mean, that is insane unless you're just so self-sabotaging. I mean, that just sounds nuts.
Well,
I'm sure you felt the same way.
I've gone through every definition, but Robert, bless him, will freely admit that yes, it was self-sabotage, and yes, it's bipolar or whatever. I mean, he's made no secret about his, shall we say, his shortcomings. But the thing at the same time, without Robert, none of that would have happened.
Yeah,
he was the catalyst, the main ingredient, the main man. So, but you have to imagine then it's like, oh, fuck, now what do we do? So the four of us carried on. We ended up having a male bodybuilder wearing a loincloth and a girl naked except for a, what do you call it?
Like pasties.
Sorry?
Pasties?
Whatever, yeah. No, the tits were out.
Oh, right.
But,
it's like a G-string or something.
The love garden was hidden.
All right.
But she was covered in gold paint, and she used to fondle a 7-foot python on stage. So that's where we went after that. And we released our second single, which I did co-write with Richard Burgess on RCA. But we all knew it's like, what, it's over, isn't it? And we were so pissed off because we had something truly unique that everybody loved, and then it was taken away, and it was a bit... I haven't really forgiven Robert yet. I mean, I have sort of, snatched him out in public about it, but I should get over it really. But it was just, when you wait all of your life, creative life, to be in that little moment, that's me in the spotlight, and then some fucker says, you know what, sorry, I've done it now. Anyway, so bless him, Robert went on to do whatever he did, and Sean and I eventually left and said, okay, well, now we're Tik and Tok. We can do what we want. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to, have the say-so of two other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, blimey.
I saw actually you and Tik Tok got back together not that long ago. It was like 20 years after you guys split up. What was that like to get back together with something, so long after?
Well, it's a funny thing because, Sean and I decided to part company, mutually this time in 1984 after EMI kept us dangling for 6 months and then didn't sign us. And we just thought, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just quit now while we're ahead. Sean went off to work with his girlfriend in her clothing empire, and I went off to form my own band. Wrong. So for years afterwards, I thought, oh, maybe we should come back and do something. And Sean always said, nah, I've done that. I'm doing this now, I'm doing that. And all of a sudden, it was when we started doing these Star Wars conventions that Sean and I were suddenly doing them together. And so I'd always say, hey, come on, do you fancy doing something else as Tik and Tok? He'd always go, no. And then all of a sudden, one day, he phones up and says, do you know what? Hey, fuck it. Let's do something together. Let's make another album. Yeah. I thought, oh, great. Now you ask me. So I said, yes, okay. Because by then, I got an Apple Mac, Logic, the music software and everything else. So we started making this album. And it was like, okay, this time we're not trying to pretend to have a hit single. Let's just make the music that we like, which is what we did. And it's pretty much what I did, really. But, you know, the thing about Sean is that he doesn't play anything. He doesn't have any sense of musical structure, but he has the ideas. So he'd say, I don't like that bit, but that's great. Do more of that. Yeah. So he was like my sounding board, you know. And so we made this album, and then we released it. We had 500 copies burnt professionally, so we sold them through the website. And then a promoter said, I've got this sort of all-day electro fest happening in London. Do you want to be part of it? You know. So we came on and we did 2 numbers halfway through it. But I realized that the moment has gone, you know, in terms of performance, and it's really probably not a good idea to try and rekindle something. But for 20 years, people have been saying, oh, if only Tik and Tok would come back, if only. So we said, okay, fuck it, let's go back and do it then. And it wasn't right, you know?
Yeah.
So what was the adjustment like? Because, like you were just saying, the performance is a totally different angle. It's 20 years later. What are you going to do? So how was that adapting and then seeing the differences in this new audience dynamic, where if it's people that had been around 20 years ago, well, they're different too?
Well, the funny thing is that the music that the people liked then is still, or was, you know, this is only 5-6 years ago, was actually hip and current and cool with the next generation. Mm-hmm. So there were bands on the bill that I'd never heard of, but they're huge in Europe, bands like Mesh and, you know, all these bands that are doing sort of pretty full-on electro stuff, but they all go, oh, wow, Tik and Tok, you know, we're not worthy. So we sort of grinned to ourselves and thought, fuck it, let's do it. So it wasn't like, it was like oldie Nacht, you know, as they say in Germany. It was like young people, and, you know, you see, nothing is ever advertised well enough. So I would have thought Tik and Tok come back for their first live show after 22 years. It's going to be everywhere. Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't. So we had a sort of a cluster of fans at the front, you know, who were very, you know, vociferous. But it was just like we came off stage, you know, we're high as a fucking kite. And then you think, you know what? Was it really worth it? Fuck it. But the album still sells, you know, maybe we shouldn't have bothered to come back because everybody still thinks of us as being how we were then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, you know, I don't, well, let's see, who would I don't sort of look at or listen to Pete Townsend and The Who and think, oh, God, yeah, if I go and see you, you're going to be exactly like you were in 1966.
Right.
No, you're going to be a balding, big-nosed old git just like me.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's funny because I saw Adam Ant last summer, and he still wears a hat and wears a freaking vest, and he still does that. And I'm not really, I mean, it was fun, but I'm not really sure if that's the way to go. Like, now you do stuff, and I could see you in the new things you're doing, the TIMANDMO, and you are dressed well. It's a whole different appearance, but... Okay, it just seems like you make it work. So I don't know if it's just wanting to capture that time, and everybody there is pretty much the same age, and if it's just fun to just be there together and kind of go, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know whether Adam, you know, specifically is getting a new audience for his stuff.
Yeah. There's a very small group of people in my age range.
But they obviously loved every pore of his body, you know, but bless him. Adam
Someone threw underwear at the stage. It was horrifying. And they sat there until the end, and after the band left, it was sad.
Well, you know, surgical pants are always a bit difficult to hurl at the stage. But, I mean, let's look at Boy George. I mean, his new album, the album that he released, you know, a couple of months ago, I think is absolutely fucking brilliant. And I think he's slimmed himself down, which is a challenge, and his voice has matured. He's become... the kind of Al Green or, you know, Sam Cooke or somebody that he always wanted to be anyway. But he's still got this kind of edgy, you know, I'm not quite sure what sex is he, but he's got a beard, which is brilliant. You know, it's like the guy who won Eurovision last week. It's like, whoa, okay. Yeah. But, you know, his music is new. Yeah. And it's not trying to sound like Culture Club or whatever. And I think that I can take. Bowie, well, hey, you know, I will kneel in front of the Dame forever. I mean, there were elements of The Next Day that I thought, wow, that's great. Then I thought, okay, that's like Scary Monsters, or that's like, you know, but he's still doing it. That's the thing. But Bowie is not saying, hey, I'm going to come back with an orange wig on and try to be Ziggy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think the problem with Adam, I please, you know, anybody's listening, don't take this the wrong way, because I love and respect him, but maybe be a little bit more honest about yourself. You know, same with Gary Numan. Gary, we all know you are wearing a monumental wig. It's, you know, it's so blatantly obvious, and I've seen the toupee tape and everything else. It's just, if you've lost it, you've lost it. You know, if people love you, they will love you, whether you're a slaphead or not. Yeah. And it's the idea, I really want to look like I did 30 years ago.
Robert Smith looks like a mess, and he's still doing that. I mean, again, not to be cruel, but he does not, that's not a good look.
Well, yeah, I don't know about Robert Smith. I mean, to me, he's always been a mess. But I mean, but an artful mess. You know what I mean? It's not like he was never trying to be glam. I mean, he put a bit of lipstick on and a lot of back combing, and hey, that's good. I mean, Phil Oakey, I mean, he's got a great face, but I mean, he's losing his hair, and it's just like, okay, I'll shave it off and I'll be Butch, you know. The singer of Heaven 17, you know, Glenn. I mean, you know, there's a lot of us who've lost a lot of hair, but it would be very foolish of me to, you know, when we started doing the Tim and Mo stuff, which I was really reluctant to do, but I'm sure we'll come to that in a bit. I didn't want to go out on stage at all, but Mo said, come on, you know, you look great, you do this, you do that. And I thought, I'm going to look like some middle-aged accountant, you know. Then I thought, I could wear the makeup, I could do the stuff. And I thought, no, okay, I'm just going to go out as me, you know. I mean, luckily, the real me is fairly cool, fairly.
I think it really works.
Yeah, I try to be elegant. Whether it works, or
I think it definitely works.
I agree.
It's more than like a gimmicky look. You look great. I think both. We just Neil just shared one of your videos with me this morning.
Yeah,
and
the Tim and Mo.
I think it works.
You see, Mo is one of those lucky bastards that have the hair, they got the face, they got, you know. Damn you to hell!
Well, how did before we go to Tim and Mo, I did want to ask, you know, when you go from Shock, which is a lot of people with 4 people, and you also had all these other things,
6 people,
to Tik and Tok, where it's really 2 people. How is that adjustment? Was it part of you like, well, now, you know, I'm more in the forefront because there's only 2 of us, or is there anything like now I can't quite hide as much because there's 6 people?
That's very, thank you. That's very interesting. That's profound, actually, because it's something that I've never quite worked out myself. I think, yes, Sean and I suddenly thought, you know what? We can now do exactly what we want. We don't have to go, hello, Barbie, hello, Carol, you know, do we have to, can we? It's like, fuck it, we can do whatever we want. At the same time, it's like, whoa, who can I hide behind now? See, Sean was the good-looking one, so in some ways, I'd let him get away with that one. Whereas I was the guy who was putting the music together, and I was the sort of, I always saw us as the sort of, no, I was going to say the Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, but that's not really right. I mean, there's a fantastic radio interview that Sean and I did in 1984 with this female Radio 1 DJ in England called Janice Long. She was hip. She had a good show. And she's interviewing the 2 of us, and she says to me, so, Tim, you're the brains behind the music. And I say, well, I sure ain't the looks, honey. And she bursts into hysterics. Sean goes into hysterics. And I thought, well, that's the truth, isn't it? You know, I'm not, you know, a pretty boy, but I was the one that sort of made things happen. Sean was the one that the little girlies love. I got the sort of slightly mad, whip-wielding, leather-clad would-be dominatrix, which is not a problem. But it was just, the dynamic was great. And do you know what? When Sean and I did this show together last weekend, I've known that boy since 1979, so do the math. It's a long time. We have absolute trust in each other.
Yeah. Do you think that...
however much of an arsehole I may have been, and probably will be, there's a forgiveness and an acceptance, and it's like, it's okay. Everything is fine. I'm not trying to...
Sounds really familiar.
Is it? Oh, that's good.
I'm the asshole of the duo.
I was kind of bringing up...
It's not apparent to everyone.
Yeah.
It's certainly not apparent, darling.
Aw.
But
you don't know it very well.
I've never had that in any other sort of venture where everything is equal, total trust. And it's a very rare and wonderful thing. And that's what, because when you said, oh, how was it, after Shocker split up, it's like we are in a bubble. We're in the Tik and Tok bubble. Nothing can get to us. And we refuse to be answered to our real names. That was how weird it got. It's like, no, we're Tikki and Tokki. And it was Tikki and Tokki, not Tik and Tok, it was Tikki. It had this sort of intimate sort of pet name thing. I call my cats are called Stella and Luna, but they're Stelly and Loony. It's Tikki, Tokki. Oh dear. Okay, have I given away too much now? But it was just the idea that, whoopsie, get them scissors out. It was just the idea that it's us against the rest of them.
Yeah. You think it's important when you find someone that creatively you really work well with, and to also accept your positions, like, oh, this guy is better at this specific thing, and so I'm not going to try to be better than he is, but just accept that that's his role, this is my role. And
yes, I mean, those roles were never defined, but by sort of osmosis, they became apparent that Sean was absolutely brilliant at thinking outside of the box. Let's do this. Let's dress like that. Let's have a mannequin on stage. And I'm thinking, oh, no, we can't do that. And I would be the one that would try to harbor mainly my musical. I always wanted to write a hit fucking song. Simple as that, And I think the thing about Tik and Tok, we're very schizophrenic, that people think of us as these sort of spiky-haired robot electronic people, and other people think, oh no, but they did Summer in the City, they did all these great singles. And that was our problem. That's my problem, really, that I wanted to be a pop star, but I also wanted to be totally abstract. It was very confusing. So in some ways I had Sean to cover the abstract aspect. But I look at some of the stuff we did. I mean, everything's on YouTube, isn't it? And I think, oh, there's Tim. He's really trying too hard. Shut the fuck up. But then again, if Sean doesn't say anything, I will say it twice. It was a perfect double act, and it still is. That's the great thing. So there you go. Blimey.
Yeah. I thought it was curious how you both ended up in Return of the Jedi, and both in Extra. Like, did you? Do you both went together as like a package, or was it a coincidence?
No. Yes. No. Yes. With Jedi, what happened was that because Sean and I trained with the same mime tutor, Desmond Jones, all of a sudden in January '82, we got I was going to say a message. No, it's a phone call. Oh, we didn't have things like that. Saying, hi, being contacted by the producer of Star Wars Episode 3. They're looking for mimes to play creatures in the new movie. I'm going to audition at my school on Saturday. Do you want to come along? It's like, hello. Sure. So Sean and I go along and we check each other out. We're still working together. We look at the competition. We think, yeah, okay. So we do some sort of robotic, mimey, alien acting movement stuff for the producer, Robert Watts, and the casting director. A couple of days later, we get the phone call, you guys have got the job. So, boom, So that was a direct result of us being students of Desmond Jones. And then the extra thing happened because one of the little Tik and Tok adjuncts was that we were doing our robotic act at a cocktail bar called Coconut Grove in the West End every Friday and every Saturday. So we'd come down the stairs, the music would start, and we'd do our stuff and terrify, the diners. And anyway, after we'd done our acts one night, this guy came up and said, look, I'm producing this British horror sci-fi movie. I'd love you guys to be in it. So we said, yeah, okay. Hello. That doesn't happen very often. So that's how we got it. Everything came about because of what we'd been trained in. There you go. It wasn't like Sean auditioned and I auditioned. Hello, I'm Tim. Hello, I'm Sean. No, we went along even to Star Wars as a double act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, you want to talk about Tim and Mo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did Tim and Mo come about?
Oh, blimey. Right. Well, way back in the midst of time in 1984, I was living with a blonde, leather-wearing, fishnet-clad punk rock singer named Becky Bondage. Now, she has a band called Vice Squad, and she's still out there. She's very active, and she's brilliant. I met her through a friend, and we started writing songs together, which was, for me, just a thinly veiled excuse to get inside her pants.
This is Simon Hunter, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
I was saying that in 1984, I was living with Becky Bondage, punk rock singer from England. Maybe her band, they're still gigging in the States. Vice Squad, they're sort of...
What did she go by?
Becky Bondage.
Becky.
It's BEKI.
Did she go by her name, or does she have a group name?
No, the group name is Vice Squad. Fairly small, sort of punky gigs here and there. Anyway, so she original band was called Vice Squad, and they were signed to EMI. I can hear you.
Okay.
So can Rex. Okay.
Well, that's a relief. He's really the important one.
Hey, and here's Brian.
He sounds like such a nice guy.
I know, but he really wants to be bad and ugly like, Rex, but he just hasn't got it, It's the trousers. It's like, please stop wearing those.
Well, I'm good there. I'm trouserless.
Brontosauri don't wear cord trousers, mate. I'm sorry. Anyway, so blah, 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 living with Becky Bondage, and she forms a new band called Ligotage. And the definition of ligotage is the art of tying. So, get it? Becky Bondage has a new band, Ligotage. Right, so they're a kind of glam punk band signed to EMI. I meet her by default through a friend, and I decide to write songs with her. Thinly veiled excuse, bloody blah. Anyway, I meet her guitarist, Momo Sex, his name was. And I thought, blimey, that's subtle.
Fantastic name.
It's like Brian fridge fucker. But he had great hair, a sort of elfin kind of face, very tight trousers, sex on a stick, And we got to know each other, and we used to hang out together in London's sort of rock and roll pubs, Suddenly you'd find yourself at the St. Moritz Club in Wardour Street brushing shoulders with Lemmy. And it's like, wow, Jesus, look, I come from a mime background. Here I am in a club with fucking Lemmy. It's like, okay, and there's a guitarist from Thin Lizzy, right? So all of a sudden it's all rock and roll, and all that sort of stuff. And I formed my rock and roll band called Icon, but I'm going to gloss over that because we were shit. I mean, the musicians were great, but the songs, I hated them. I finally got my own band together, and I hated the music we made. It was awful. It was sort of funk rock, progressive, electronic bollocks. I was a lost soul, basically. As soon as Tik and Tok split up, I went out into the void. I did my 40 days and nights in the wilderness, and I never quite got back. But Mo and I still retained the kind of friendship. We used to hang out together and stuff. And then I got married and blah, 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 blah. And then I thought, oh, God, whatever happened to Mo? You know, Mo Six. Mm-hmm. He's a brilliant guitarist. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, he was up there with Eddie Van Halen and all these people, you know. And all of a sudden, I got a message on Facebook saying, hey, Tim, amazing that I found you. It's Mo, you know. I'm coming to England, you know, for the first time in 15 years. Do you want to get together? So we did. And it was instant sort of, you know, bonding stuff. And he'd been living in Rio de Janeiro for 12 years. And this had happened, that had happened. I'd been married, been divorced, had a breakdown, blah, 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 you know, all the stuff. And as we were leaving after our sort of coffee visit, I said, I don't suppose you're up for making some music while you're here? Because he was only going to be here a couple of weeks. He said, sure. I thought you'd never ask. I thought, wow, that's going to be weird, because I'd given up with music after my venture with George Giannis from Sailor. I thought, well, that's it, done it, you know. So he came over and he had this Brazilian handmade acoustic guitar, and I thought, this is going to be very interesting. What can I do to this? So he said, no, what I love about your Tik and Tok stuff, because he got the Dream Orphans album, was that could you mix the two together? So you have a kind of electronic sort of thing with a sort of strumming acoustic Brazilian guitar. So we created a backing track, and he went home that night, and I wrote the lyrics for Somewhere and recorded them the next day. And he said, fuck me, that's brilliant. And that was it. And that is the best.
Yeah, that was a video that I'd watched this morning, and I noticed that it is such an interesting pairing of sounds, where he has that acoustic, but it really does work.
It does work, you know, and the thing was that at the time I wrote the lyrics, my late niece, Gina, was going through a very, very bad time that ended up with her taking her own life. But I wrote the lyrics to somehow try and comfort her in her hour of need, and also everyone else who was in that state where, you know, the shutter seemed to have come down and there's no way out. Yeah. And so it's a very positive thing, and we both thought, fucking hell, this is brilliant. How extraordinary that neither of us had thought, oh, I must get together with Tim or must meet Mo again. It was a purely Castaneda-esque moment of wow. Good things can happen without any planning, without any kind of forethought, you know?
Well, when you talked earlier about, you know, doing Tik and Tok again, you know, when it's 20 years later and for whatever reason it doesn't work, but that's because, you know, you're in a different part in your life, so this is something that would mean something to you right now.
Yeah, trying to recreate something that was brilliant then, all those years later, just, I think, is wrong, but you feel you have to try it.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. If I didn't do it, I'd be kicking myself to death. And we got a great album out of it. That's the main thing. But with Mo, it was just like, wow, wasn't expecting that one. So what happens then is like, okay, we've got to do more. But Mo's sort of circumstances decreed that he had to leave England to go back to Colombia to teach. So we were suddenly left in this curious space of, okay, can we make music 6,000 miles apart?
Yeah.
And we proved that we could. Now, the thing about the lyrics I wrote for Tim and Mo, and that I sang with Tim and Mo, for the first time ever, I wanted to make a collection of songs that were very positive, very uplifting, because my brother was dying, you know, my niece was about to go, my mother had died, you know, everything was sort of falling apart spiritually for me. And I just thought, I want to give a ray of hope to people rather than just saying, whoa, you know, and all that sort of, hey, pop. And I think that's what works about the Tim and Mo music, is that it has this sort of underlying positive vibe to it. So, yes, it's funny, isn't it? You know, you should never say never.
It's nice. That's why it doesn't sound saccharine. It doesn't sound like it's trying too hard to be positive. It's very natural feeling. Very, very nice song.
Thank you. I mean, when Mo came back to England, God, that was a couple of years later, he said, oh, we should, making a whole album. And I said, yeah, well, we've got most of it. I think we should do a cover version. So we said, well, okay, what should we do? So we're both massive Bowie fans. So rather than doing, Suffragette City, or I'm thinking of something that could translate to an acoustic guitar on a sort of minimal. Oh, he's gone now.
Nobody. I think we're all here.
I just hear that. Yep. Boop, 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 boop. We chose Bowie's After All from The Man Who Sold the World, and we drank half a bottle of Jack Daniels, and we put the backing track together in one night, because it's 3/4. It's a boom jack jack boom jack. It's not rock and roll. It's a very hard rhythm to sort of put together. And
that was the first one that I listened to from your TIMANDMO, and I was like, wow, I really like this. And then I went and listened to the other ones, and I was like, and that's why I asked you to do the Be Artist a Month.
Thank you. I think the thing about After All, it's a very mysterious song. It doesn't owe anything to rock and roll, and that was the thing. It's like, we can't do rock and roll in this format, So for us to come out and do Suffragette City, or any of Bowie's sort of more upbeat things, but this one just has this mysterious, trippy quality to it that suited it. Please trip them gently, they don't like to fall. Oh, by jing! It's like a weird ball rolling over a hillside. It's an extraordinary song. It's one of Bowie's best, I think.
Yeah, I really liked it. Right from the beginning, like you said, just the music, and it's kind of almost dreamlike quality.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys did an excellent job on the cover.
I think.
Yeah. So I also like your guys' videos, and I actually like the look, as we brought up earlier. I think that suits you very well, and it looks great.
Well, when it came to doing some live shows, I thought, oh dear, I really, because I've been burnt by the Tik and Tok 2 PAs, and I thought, I really, really don't want to do this again. But Mo was adamant, and he said, no, you look great. I always need someone to say, fuck off, you look all right, So I always think I'm my worst enemy. I think I don't want to look like an accountant or something. And
no, you look classy.
I know, but I thought, well, I'm going to do the least I can do, but still try and somehow illustrate the lyric of the song.
Yeah.
And when you've done everything else, the only thing left to wear is a black suit, isn't it? Really, it's like,
funny because Neil had mentioned earlier about you coming down from 6 people to 2, and that was very exposing. And I would think that this would be the same thing, where now it's like you're getting into, this is just you. It's not this big act. It's not
all the gimmicks are gone.
Makeup.
Yeah. No, it's horrifying, because even in Tik and Tok, we had the makeup and we had the clothes and the costume to hide behind. Now it's suddenly, 20 years later, and I've got nothing to hide behind. And it was, oh dear. I didn't like it. I didn't feel comfortable with it. Mo says, oh, you look great, And it's very touching when you look at the video for After All. There's so many times that Mo sort of looks at me with this little loving smile on his face, and I completely sort of blank him, because I put myself in my own world of trying to deal with this presentation thing again. So there's a lot of sort of hand acting, but it worked. But I had to say afterwards, right, that's it. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything to do with music anymore. I say that now, and I'm probably lying through my teeth, but I certainly
That's in my head. You'll go back. You just need a break.
If somebody said, Tim, I've got this sort of short movie, I'd really love you to do something. Yes, I would do that. But I don't want to do anything under my own name, as this is my new music project. I really have done that. I've done it with Tik and Tok, TIMANDMO, Noir, my own stuff as well, the Baudelaire stuff. That's another thing we haven't touched on yet. I mean, that was the idea that suddenly I had all this home recording equipment, and I thought, I really want to do a project, what can I do? I want to do. And I was at a friend's house, and I picked up a copy of Baudelaire's Fleur de Mal, The Flowers of Evil, again, because I read it when I was a kid. But I thought, wow, what about putting this stuff to music? That would be dark and edgy, wouldn't it? Hey, little voice goes, hey, Tim, go for it, man. The other voice goes, oh, no, who do you think you are? Middle Tim goes, fuck it, I'm going to go for it. So the problem was I had several different anthologies of Baudelaire's Fleur de Mal, and they're all different translations because it was obviously written in, antiquated French. So I had to find ones that sounded kind of contemporary if you just read them, as opposed to a more sort of Victorian sounding stilted thing. So I chose all the songs, poems I wanted to do, but then I realized that actually they're not all dark and demonic. That's what everybody thinks. Ooh, Baudelaire. The Aleister Crowley of, popular poetry. But so I thought, okay, I'm going to do all of them. There's a poem called Beauty, and I did a very nice sort of, almost like a sort of Gallic trip-hop version of it. So I did all this stuff, and you've got some of them, like the Vampire and...
Yeah, I was going to mention I really like the Vampire. I actually like all
that sort of stuff, but there's a lot of beautiful stuff as well. So I created an album's worth of material, and I thought, it's the same dilemma, is that some people will like the heavy stuff, some people will like the beautiful stuff, but no one is going to like all of it. And so I got disillusioned with it,
Why would you think that, though? Because you like all of it. You like all of it, so why wouldn't other people be the same?
Because I'm very eclectic, I suppose. I can, I do find that some people only like one genre of music. So if it's dark and heavy, that's it. They're going for, whoa.
Yeah, you don't need them.
They're going for, yeah, Baudelaire, rock it. Yeah, okay, shut it now. Thank you. That sort of thing. But I thought, actually, I want something a little bit more. Hello, I'm Charles Baudelaire. But it just became a very schizophrenic project, so I ended up just having the heavy stuff. But it wasn't heavy enough. Now it sounds pretty lightweight, really. But it was 12, 13 years ago. I probably would do it differently now, I think. I find it very...
Do you think you'd approach it and end up doing those two extremes now that you can look back on it?
No, I don't want to do it again. But, I mean, I got people in to do things to add to it, like a violinist called M-E-E, plays an electric violin, and then Catherine Blake from the Medieval Babes to do vocals and things, just to add it, add something into it that took it away from me. I'm too linear, It was a nice idea, but it led to a couple of things, like the Vampire, like Destruction, the other video that my late niece Gina sings on that as well, and it's just, I was pleased with those, Yeah,
I really like both. And we actually played both those on the last show, and I think the videos are great. And I personally like the contrast of styles if you would do both of them.
We would get into that totally. Neil and I.
Yeah, because I think Annabelle and I
There's other people
do a
out
lot.
there
Yeah,
that like these extremes.
I think there's a big contrast in the stuff we do between like childlike and silly, and also kind of dark and weird stuff.
Disgusting.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Vile.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, it can never be just one thing. Vile and disgusting and dripping and moist and bloody is great. But there's also trees and flowers and beauty and flowing hair and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So always in everything. It's how do I find the sort of middle ground that captures all of it? It's very difficult.
What is your draw? Why would you want to do that? What would be your motivation to do that? Because personally, for me, I love the extremes. Neil and I are the same way. That's really is a giant part of why we're such good friends. That's the basis, I think, is that we see the world like that. Because those things are beautiful at extremes. When you have like a beautiful day and there's little butterflies in the field, and then you have this torrential, scary lightning and thunderstorm. So what would be the reason for you personally to have it just be like a normal day?
Do you just think other people can't not comprehend, but wouldn't be like something? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did send the sort of Baudelaire stuff to a couple of people, and their opinion was, well, it's a little bit too schizophrenic, because if we're a label that deals in sort of, dark metal or even just metal stuff, we don't want nice, cutie, beautiful stuff. But I can't just do a whole album of one type of music. So I thought, well, I'll do it as two different EP things, so you got the 5 heavier tracks and then you got the 5 lighter tracks, because some of them, are very nice indeed. But what the thing is, when I feel that something isn't really working the way I thought it would, I want to walk away from it. Now, maybe I'm then guilty of what Robert was like leaving Shock. It's like, okay, this isn't quite what I wanted, or I'm bored with it now, or I've done that, But the Baudelaire thing, I listen to it and I think it's a little bit static. But see, the problem is when you're doing all this stuff on your own, you haven't got the input of other people. You haven't got a band.
Yeah.
But the drummer says, okay, let's not do it in straight 4/4. Let's flick it up a bit. And the guitarist says, okay, let's really do. I'm just doing all of that stuff myself, and I'm pretty limited, really. So it was an idea, it was a project that at least I tried it, And if it led to a couple of things like Destruction, I like Autumn Song as well, but The Vampire, but they're still not kind of dark enough, are they, for those people, Because when I hear some of this stuff, I don't mean this, that I can't do that. That's ridiculous.
I'm not really into that either.
But that sort of, that's what Numan is doing now. It's that sort of monumentally sort of primal. It's 9 Inch Nails, isn't it? That's Manson, all that stuff. But I don't actually listen to that kind of music. So therefore I'm not really simpatico with it. I'm kind of old-fashioned, really. I like a heavy guitar, and I like a great drum beat, and I like sexy vocals, So, hey,
What would be comparable for you? What would be a band that does capture that kind of feel with having dark themes, but not being, again, using the gimmicky sort of darkness?
What do you mean, a current band? Or
anything. Yeah.
Any band from history.
Current is great, but anything.
Oh, Jesus.
Anything people can look up so we can appreciate it.
Well, no, I'm not obscure or anything. You don't have to look them up. I mean, one of my favorite songs of all time is "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster Cult.
I want to ask something about that. That's interesting you brought that particular song up.
Yeah, of course.
It is, because recently there's a band that's really big doing the horror conventions, and it's this band called Ghost, and I really like their look, and I haven't listened to their music, and I mentioned this on my Facebook page, and then there were people who were saying, oh, well, they're not what you expect, and they didn't like them because they said they actually sound like it's like Blue Oyster Cult trying to sing about dark subjects, and I was like, that actually sounds great. Now I actually want to listen to them, and that was their idea of not to listen to them. And I was like, I'm actually more interested now in listening to Ghost.
If I had to say yes, I would say that Don't Fear the Reaper. I mean, I never really got off on the rest of Blue Oyster Cult's oeuvre, to be honest. But it's that one song has everything I want in a rock song. It's got immaculate guitar playing. It's got fantastic vocal harmonies. The structure is building, it's powerful, it's anthemic. But the lyrics, it's like, whoa, you know, the candles blew and then he appeared. It's like, what? When I
There's
first
something a lot of people who would hear it, they would appreciate. I know many people don't know lyrics to songs, but it still has that impact, and it's almost shouldn't be a secret, but it almost is that there are people that will actually understand the lyrics and get into it, and it's so much more artistic when you have that side, but it can masquerade as like a popular song.
Sure. I mean, you know, any song that has another 40,000 coming every day, you know, we can be like they are. Come on, baby. It's like, come on, baby. It's sexy. We're going to die. We're going to fly out of the window and go towards whatever. You know, I've never, and to this day, I've never heard a song that triggers that feeling in me. You know, I mean, Stephen King, bless him, he's used it in how many books and movies, you know, but it's a Stephen King song, you know, there's obviously, you know, being the age I am, there's a great many songs, but that one, almost above all, if I could write a song, it would be that one. And I know this is going to sound ridiculously cheesy, but More Than a Feeling by Boston, it's like the guitars on that, you know, I mean, the guy's voice is beyond sort of, you know, castrati, isn't it? But the way it builds, you know, it's just a perfect rock song. And I think if, you know, in England, we have this radio show called Desert Island Disc. You know, you've unfortunately been sort of cast up on the shores of a desert island, but miraculously, you seem to have a record player and electricity. So what would be the albums that you take with you? Now, this is a perennial problem, isn't it? For me personally, it's you know, I did an interview with a guy a few weeks ago saying, you know, what's your favorite movie? And I said, well, could I do my favorite 5 movies? And he goes, yeah. And then I thought, you know, I can't even do that. So I had to go back to 1. So I chose Performance as my favorite all-time movie. The one that changed me. That's the thing. I mean, so the same could apply to a song, couldn't it? What is the song that changed you, that made you think, fucking hell, music isn't what I thought it was. It's gone somewhere different. Now, for a lot of people, it's Anarchy in the UK, or it's Rock the Casbah, or, you know, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, or something. You know, I mean, for me, it's Bowie, really. It's the first time I saw Bowie in 72 and then bought Ziggy Stardust. It was just like, okay, this is it. This is where music has shifted somewhere else. This is not just She Loves You or, you know, You Really Got Me or anything like that. Aladdin Sane, that album, and Diamond Dogs especially, that's dark, that's dystopian, that's Orwell makes music, you know. You're dancing where the dogs decay. It's like, fucking hell, Dave. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, that's a massive tangent, wasn't it?
No, it's great.
No, it's very interesting.
You know, we are talking about music, but I mean, to be perfectly frank, I have heard very little in recent years that triggers any sort of form of involvement or excitement
like
within me.
Emotional attachment,
You know?
So why do you think that's changed? Because I also have a very hard time finding anything, and so I listen to a lot of stuff. I'm really on this big 80s kick right now, but I find that I'm discovering things that I didn't know about the past instead of even trying in the present, because it just sounds soulless.
Well, I'm definitely with you on that one, but you see, I'm an old guy now. So obviously I'm going to look back and think, you know what? There is nothing that compares to the Who banging out, Won't Get Fooled Again in terms of power. There's nothing that compares to, Kashmir by Led Zepp or whatever. It's, but I don't want to be the sad old get who thinks, oh, it's all been done, it's all the modern stuff is shit. But there's a little part of me that thinks, you know what, Tim? It is all shit. Whatever anybody does now is going to be either derivative or complete mindless bollocks. And it's terribly sad, but you know what? You have to outgrow something. I've been obsessed and have lived with music since I was 13 years old. That's a long fucking journey. I've gone through the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, the Yardbirds, Cream, Jimmy, The Doors, It's a Beautiful Day, Kate Bush, Bowie, again, Talking Heads, Kraftwerk, The Prodigy, all of this stuff. And here I am. I think there's nothing I want to listen to at the moment. Now, that might be terribly wrong. But hey, I'm entitled. Movies are different. All of my favorite movies are now in the past, but I can still encompass something new and fab that's just come out.
Yeah.
Because movies aren't tied into youth and fashion in the same way that music is. Music has always been about being young. Let's face it, it has really. So what happens when you get old? Do you try and pretend to like new stuff? That new Beyonce track is really kicking. Shut up. Going to take your cargo pants off and get into your slippers. So I just say, okay, well, maybe music now is like a fading photograph. I've still got the photograph and it's still in my album. But I don't need to, keep on searching out, It's just, maybe I'm totally wrong, but maybe my love affair with music lasted 30 years. That's quite long, isn't it? I know that.
I think.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's fine, but I think that's the thing is I think that youth now is different than I think any point in
the past.
The history of modern, we'll call it music, anything post, like ice cream shop kind of pop music, that it's different. That it is very materialistic for the most part.
Yeah.
And not materialistic now is so intense. And there's some music that's just about taking advantage of people and it's music had a lot to do with sex before, but it just isn't the same. It feels everything is commercial. And I think it was just different, when you were growing up, and that's music that I really have respect for is it can be about those different themes, but again, it feels so much more genuine. It doesn't feel like a label came in and said, okay, you have to now do this. You have to now do this.
Yeah.
Because maybe somewhere inside those people, there's something, good to say. But labels, I think this for sure, the same with film. We just talked with someone recently talking about Hellraiser and how controls just are out of whack. We talked about Terry Gilliam not long ago, that people that are very artistic are crushed by people who want to make money.
Sure. Well, that's unfortunately is the state of the world, isn't it? Over the last year, I've sort of moved into the, equally dubious world of publishing. And I sort of think, what fucking hope in hell have I ever got of releasing a book, and I mean a book, that is going to sort of turn the world on, Luckily, I a few months ago, I sent my novella to a guy called Simon Marshall Jones, who has his own imprint called Spectral Press. And he got it at the same time. He just, if I've said this before, forgive me, you can cut it. But he just set up a new imprint called Teatro Mundi. And he said, what you've written is absolutely perfect for what I want to do next. And I thought that is the thing that any artist has waited all their life to hear. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be, J.K. fucking Rowling or whatever. It'll probably sell 30 copies, but for me, it's like, at least it's out there. He wants to do the novella in a hard case, in a slip case, as a piece of art. It'll be expensive, it'll be 35 quid, which is what, I don't know, $50 a book. Yeah. We may sell 10 of them, but it's just the idea that somebody believes that you can still create something of quality and class without the main motivation is to make fucking money.
Yeah.
And we all want to make money.
Along those lines, when Annabelle's just talked, last year I went, a friend of mine in Los Angeles works for Lionsgate, and he took me on a tour of Lionsgate, which was very cool. And it was very weird. There was like this big contrast, and he took me around, and he introduced me to the people that he liked, and they were like the people that had worked there originally, and there was only a few of them left, and all their offices there was posters, there was toys, all this horror stuff, and you could clearly see that they loved that genre of film, and they love film. And then the rest of the place were newer people, and it was almost kind of like you're saying, accountants, and they were just working, and it was all their desks was just, it was a computer and a coffee cup and nothing, you could clearly see the contrast between the people that had started the company and they're slowly moving out and the people that are there now, and it's just, a corporation.
I mean, I have a propensity, for introspection, and therefore that can lead to sort of a kind of depressive mindset, when I think, what's the point? Where is the world going? What is the future? At the same time, still, there's this sort of notion that there's always got to be room for something with a positive energy to it. I don't mean it's all hello trees, hello flowers. I mean, obviously there's room for that. But also, I mean, I look at Clive Barker and the work that certain people, even if it's in a horror genre, are doing, there's an intensity, there's a passion, there's a belief in it. The movie that Barbie and I both are doing, which is strange after all those years since Shock, called Bad Medicine. It's a UK movie. They're currently fundraising to get it done, but this script came and I just thought, wow, this is like the portmanteau movies from yesteryear, the British Hammer horror movies like Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, or that sort of stuff where 5 people get into a train carriage and a mysterious stranger comes in.
I just watched one that was Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing on a train.
Oh,
and there was a monster. And that was very cool. It was like in a crate. It was some ancient thing. I have no idea if that's in the same genre or era of those films, but it was fantastic.
But it's they're called portmanteau movies, where you have 5 or however many interlinking stories held together by a central character, and at the end of it, they link together, and they're all dead or they're all puppets, or you know what I mean.
So that's sort of like the idea of like a Pulp Fiction kind of thing in modern terms.
Like the old Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, when they kind of tell their tales of how they died.
But it's always one person, one being that is sort of manipulating all these people. It's like the monkey's paw. Oh, yes, you can get what you want, but this is what happened when he wanted. So I'm very excited about this movie because I personally, and this is only my opinion, please, that I am personally sick of fucking torture porn, slasher movies, remakes of Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, all of that stuff that we're inundated with on the horror circuit. Let's go back to the idea that everybody has a destiny. Everybody is going to get fucked over, or maybe will find retribution or enlightenment or just a horrible death. But it's the idea of people's stories interlinking. You know, it's not some nutter in a boiler suit and a mask rising out of a swamp with a hatchet. You know, haven't we done that now? Haven't we? I mean, I really liked Sinister, you know. I thought that was interesting, although I do have a problem with grown men going into a dark room with a baseball bat.
How you doing? This is Lance Henriksen, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
Tim was yelling at me not to make a Bloody Mary with gin.
Yes, that's wrong on every level.
Neil is brand new to the Bloody Mary scene. I got him to try one. They're so good.
They are.
They are very good.
Healthy vitamin C.
Like, that's what I told him on. Just, this is good for you.
Yeah.
Tomato juice and horseradish.
Oh,
horseradish.
Yeah. That's a different thing. Worcestershire sauce.
Yep.
Like Leicester Square. Tabasco, salt and pepper. Sometimes celery salt is good.
Try some horseradish sometime. It's very good.
Yeah, I'm going to try making mine from scratch here.
I have a good friend of mine named Jonathan who makes his own horseradish vodka. So basically, you just chop up, you know, fresh horseradish, stick it in a bottle of Smirnoff, and leave it for a couple of days.
That sounds good.
It's disgusting if you drink it on its own.
Well, that is how a lot of those kind of things are.
It's like, whoa. But if you add in the old tomato juice and the stuff, it actually does make a really seriously fab Bloody Mary.
So I remember I had the pepper Southern Comfort, and by itself, it's like vomitous. But if you put in something else, it tastes good.
Why do they have to mess with things?
Yeah, when I was in L.A., someone brought me, it was bison grass vodka.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was very good. I just couldn't understand. It's like, well, who decided to put like the grass and bison like aroma on it? But why was that like? Who thought of that? It? Yeah, I thought it was great until I actually ate the grass that was left in the vodka, and that was not a good idea.
Neil, you don't eat the grass. You can eat the olive and
he's eating worse.
Yes, actually,
much worse.
Yeah, that's
true.
Do
you know that Neil is eating? Are you familiar with the term Rocky Mountain oysters?
No, it sounds like a lung disease.
It's possibly worse than that. It is bull testicles, and they are fried.
Oh, stop it.
No, I'm serious. Look up Rocky Mountain oysters. You'll see it. You probably don't want to. I looked up the preparation before we went to this convention. It's nasty. It's disgusting. But at this last year at Bazaar AC, which is the one we're going to about a month now, they had this weird food thing during the convention, and so we went up, and it's all these different strange things.
Yeah, it's like tongue tacos.
And I tried a lot. Yeah, that's right. What was there? I don't remember a lot of it.
It's tongue-in-cheek tacos. One of the things I thought was fairly normal for it was like eel, I think. Sashimi, yeah. I thought that was I've seen that before, but hearts, yeah, grilled hearts. There was two things you wouldn't try though, and one of them was the fried bull testicles.
Yeah, no bull testicle from the onset.
Yeah, I was glad that I didn't like them because it would suck to be like, man, I'm really have a craving for some bull testicles.
Yeah.
Right now.
So where do you nip out and get a pair of bull testicles to chow down on?
Yeah. My idea was, because we filmed it, and I was like, I'm gonna teabag the testicles for the video because I thought it would be funny.
You got a little shy because you're in front of strangers.
Yeah, we were, and it was like a nice restaurant with the chef there, and I was like,
it was like the top of the building.
Yeah, like the one time I've
Special
actually
elevator.
been shy to do something. Like, I'd probably not do that. But yeah, they were not good. I would not recommend them.
Good. Do you think they'd sell them in egg cartons?
To be a very big egg carton, I would think.
They are not big.
No, I guess they use
They
like
just have that
baby ones.
inner part.
Oh, that's like.
It's not like it's got the skin on the outside that you can crisp up.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
It was the consistency was almost like sand inside. It was.
Shut up.
It was not pleasant.
Hey, it's moving into supper time in England. Jesus.
No spaghetti and meatballs tonight.
Now that is disgusting. A texture like sand.
It is.
Fuck, shut up. Oh dear. Right. Follow.
Where do you go from here?
I don't know.
I think you were talking about Bad Medicine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't possibly think of anything to say after that. Bad Medicine. There's a Facebook page.
Yes.
Check it
Do you
out.
have a Kickstarter or anything like that? Because you said you're trying to raise funds for it. Do you have a public fundraising site?
It's not up to me, but he tried on Kickstarter or Kickstart, whatever you call it, but it didn't reach the target, and that means you don't get any of the money that people have pledged.
Oh.
So the next one is the
Indiegogo, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Neil. Yeah, that one. So that's what they're doing. But it is a really dark fucking story, believe me. I play an alien. No, they
do.
How could you possibly do that? Yes, and Barbie plays the psychiatrist. That's
an interesting combination.
Yeah. Would you think the roles would be reversed? It's one of the best scripts I've ever read, actually, because it is that portmanteau thing, but it is like, fucking hell, let's shift this into something different. And in the same way that Hellraiser did back in the day, I don't think people are going to see anything they've seen before in this. And it's, I find that very reassuring, because like music, it's like horror is done, isn't it? And
that's what really does make it exciting when you find something that does stand out, because you see all the stuff that's the same as everything else, and then wow, here's something that stands out.
Well, this is sort of a horror movie, but it does involve alien intervention and the imparting of wisdom from a theoretically higher species. Or are they? Who knows? Anyway, I'm really looking forward to it.
And by the way,
I think that's really where any kind of horror has to go. It has to be intelligent. It has to involve more humanity instead of the stripped down, kill them all, make them scared, and like you said, torture porn.
It is.
I like a few of those movies, but by and large, it's monotonous, it's boring, it's not creative. You make a bunch of inventions and make people scream, suffer, and die.
Well, like anything, the first time you do it, it's new. But then when everyone does it after that, then it just becomes repetitive.
Yeah, it's like everybody still tries to remake Evil Dead or, Texas Chainsaw or whatever. It's, I mean, those movies are great, but how many times do you have to reboot them,
Yeah.
That's the contemporary disease for me, is the reboot.
Yes.
It's
we discuss that.
Okay.
Probably every show.
Yeah, we just had coming up, a good conversation with Doug Bradley about the remake.
Yeah.
He's not a fan.
No.
I think most people in film are not a fan unless they're currently being paid to be in said film.
Well, it's not for me to talk about Doug and Hellraiser, obviously, but I would have thought it was unnecessary, I mean, I probably said this back in January, whenever it was, but I kind of sort of liked the last Hellraiser movie I watched, which was basically Pinhead in space,
Yeah, number 4.
Oh, yeah.
I quite like that. I watched it just recently, and I remember as a kid when I first saw it, I didn't really like it, but I watched it again, I was like, this actually works.
Yes, that's what I thought, actually. Second time round, I thought, yeah, you know what? I've now got past my sort of resentment.
Yeah.
And I thought it's quite nice to find out a little bit about Le Marchand and all that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know. So where do you go from that? You don't. You have to go back. But I wouldn't have thought that Clive would have needed to, because, I mean, he's got so many other stories, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So many other things. Anyway, I don't know.
And I can't speak for Clive, but the way I think is, I think maybe because, you know, we're not the people that actually made, you know, created Hellraiser, but in his mind, maybe, you know, someone took his creation and made all these other films, you know, 8 other films, and maybe I would think in his mind, it's like, well, I would like to take this back and, you know, do one more that's in my vision. That's how I see.
Because he's really been just screwed by commercialism. Because he didn't, you know, it's been said that he lost really the rights to his story. So people would just make these films.
Well, from what I gather, is that in order to make the first Hellraiser, he had to sell the rights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that means that he had no control over, you know, number 3, number 4, number 5, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think as a writer and you know, an auteur, I think Clive is probably pretty pleased with Hellraiser and Hellbound, you know. But you know what it's like? I mean, if somebody came to me and said, look, Tim, you know, we got this idea, we really want to go with it, and you think, oh, at last, fantastic. And you go, yeah, whatever. And they say, okay, well, you know, here's X amount. You know, you can do this, you can do that, but we're actually going to own it for the next 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, whatever, you know, as long as I can get this one done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think, you know, especially when you're younger, you don't foresee what that really means.
Yeah, it's all a bit, you know. But I mean, Clive has got...
But at the same time, people that really enjoy those films for what the true value is, they say 1 and 2 are gold, and everything else you can more or less dismiss.
Well, you know, it's the same thing, although it's a very different universe, but having spent 12 years in the Star Wars convention universe, is that everybody says, well, you know what, for me it's the first 3, you know, the
what
do you call them?
Sequels. The prequels.
Yeah, it's like that's all they want, and so now they're doing episode 7. Maybe if JJ does what he says he wants to do, is to go back to the concept of the original 3, where you still have guys maybe like me or me then in suits making creatures sort of real as opposed to sort of CGI in against the green screen. You know, it's going to be the biggest movie of certainly the next couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, I said there was a very cool picture. It was in the Entertainment a couple weeks ago, and it was J.J. Abrams and the original cast and the new cast.
Yeah,
and they were all just sitting around talking. I was like, that's pretty cool. And it's not only, a lot of people think it's, you know, they're bringing back Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia, but they're also bringing back the original actors who played C-3PO, R2-D2, and the guy who played Chewbacca.
Yeah, well, it's not really my place to say it, but having done a show with Kenny Baker only a week and a half ago, I would say it's sort of unlikely physically that he's going to be playing the same character.
Yeah, when I read that too, because they said like he had both hips replaced, both knees replaced, and has a cane. So I didn't know exactly how he could play Chewbacca, but that's what
it's kind of scary to think about. How is that going to pan out? Because like they're talking about even something like they want to remake the Goonies and bring them all back. So what is that? Just again, a gimmicky thing to say, oh, look, here's all these old actors. Isn't that great? Oh, I'm going to see this because of that. That shouldn't be why anyone would enjoy these films, it should be story. It shouldn't be, like a little nod retrospectively where you see this guy you idolize and it's all about, kind of like fan service. Not into fan service.
I think it all depends on the
movie.
movie.
Throw things in because then the fans can all geek out over it.
Well, it all depends on the movie itself, too. I think if you have a story to tell, like, you know what? I have a story of what happened to all the people after, Return of the Jedi ended, 30 years later.
Sure.
Not just like bring them back just for the sake of bringing them back, but if you actually have an idea, then
yeah.
But no, that's my fear.
Mm-hmm.
Is where JJ does phenomenal, but it still is a fear not knowing what's going to happen, how it's going to go, because there's so many films that do that, and it's an easy way to pull people in and become more loyal to those kinds of films. The fan service is a big thing that pulls people in.
What did you think of the Tron Legacy sort of, thingy?
I haven't seen that yet. I've heard it's very good from a variety of people.
I did too, but
I've heard it is a very good movie.
I was not a fan of it.
Nah. But that was the thing when they first said, "Oh, we're going to get Harrison and Carrie and Mark back in," and it's a continuation of, Jedi. I thought, well, hang on, Harrison Ford was in his early 40s when he did that. He's now in his early 70s. That's how are you going to do that? And somebody at Celebration Europe last year said, "Oh, they're going to do it like they did Tron Legacy CGI." Mm-hmm. Look at Jeff Bridges.
Just to make them look younger? That would be a nightmare.
No, Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy looks like the face of the android in iRobot. It's sort of like, this is not human now.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey.
But people accept that, and it makes money, and that really bothers me. I have friends with children, and this is what they're seeing as example of film. And so this is just how it's, I understand technology will get better and improve, like stop motion animation became more and more seamless. So I don't know, is this just having to accept that this is kind of like the stop animation where you have this fledgling technology that will become something amazing? I don't know. I like the idea of actors such as yourself playing the roles of the people that may be in the background. This is like with the music we were talking about earlier, is this just a matter of really being old-fashioned, or is it a legitimate beef?
Well, I think it's a question that certainly the three of us can't really answer. It's a very strange sort of new world, isn't it, really? I'm grateful that, all of us are still out here, doing whatever we do. But I think if I was sort of 15 and thinking about going into the movie biz or, the music biz, I don't know, what would I think? Would I think this is a great opportunity, or, what's the point, Hey, I don't know.
Well, I didn't want to. You brought up earlier that in a recent interview you said your favorite movie was The Presentation. Was that the movie?
The Presentation.
You said someone asked you what you couldn't narrow it down to one movie, and what was the movie you said it was?
Sorry, Performance.
The Performance. I'm sorry, The Performance. What about that movie makes it your favorite?
Ooh. Okay. Well, you'll have to really read my little critique on Jim McLeod's Ginger Nuts of Horror site.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, well, okay, what's the movie that made you? And I said, it's Performance. So he said, okay, write about it. It's very hard to encapsulate what that movie means to me, sort of live and without sort of really reading from my notes or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most adventurous British movie ever made. Because it's about it's a two-part movie. The first part is about London gangsters, and I don't mean sort of, George Raft or Al Capone, but these are London gangsters. These are geezers, but one of them becomes isolated and moves as a refuge into the house of a retired rock star played by Mick Jagger. And it becomes a very schizophrenic, hallucinatory sort of movie about identity. I'm sorry, I can't really define it in easy terms, but it is, for me personally, it's the most extraordinary British movie certainly ever made. It's up there with Jodorowsky's El Topo or Santa Sangre, or movies that deal with transmogrification of identity, and has a great soundtrack as well. Jack Reacher and Ry Cooder and
El Topo's actually playing near us in a couple weeks. We're going to go see it. And actually, last time we had you on here, you talked about that movie, and you also talked about the Dune. That was, it was going to be like a 16-hour Dune. And I was interested because after I talked to you, like a couple months later, they had a big article about that in the Entertainment Magazine. I was like, oh, this is what Tim was talking about. And then there's a documentary out about the making of that Dune that never happened.
Okay, yes, no, there is. I mean, it's quite a long one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just saw something today that Jodorowsky has got another movie coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, after 20 blah blah years. You'll have to Google that one as well. But that looks quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's always interesting. Someone come, just that someone would come back to making films after so long.
Well, I think he probably felt, truly bruised after the failure of maybe Santa Sangre to, establish him as a major force or whatever. But this movie seems to be, from the little I've read, it seems to be a return to form. It's actually got him in it, and it's actually got somebody playing a younger Jodorowsky in it. Can't remember what it's called, but Annabelle's Googling it as we speak.
I'm not.
Hey, that drawing you did of me last time.
Yes.
That was monumental. How do you do that?
I draw a lot. I started young. I tell people that, and I won't get too far off track, but I think that part of what people consider talent is the ability to just do something over and over and not get bored.
Wow.
Because I drew constantly as a kid. Always. I was in school, whatever. I'm going to draw. And so here I am. But thank you very much. I really appreciate the compliment.
No, but it was just, how did you do that? I mean, where did you get the face from?
That's a more technical question. I don't know. Sometimes I do Google people's pictures to find them, or I might go on Facebook and scroll through their pictures to find them.
Right.
I started one for Doug Bradley. That's oil pastel, which I love, and I would like to do more of that.
I was going to say what I told Annabelle when I first saw that picture was because I was looking on my phone, and so it was a small picture, and I saw Tim Dry posted something, and you had it in your display picture, and I was like, wow, that's a cool picture of Tim. He's really showcasing his eyes. And I clicked on it, and I was like, oh, that's an actual drawn picture, and I knew right away who drew it because I could tell her style. But I thought it was so good. I really actually thought it was a photo when it was small.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was brilliant because, the face you got from somewhere, but the eyes, it's like, whoa. I don't recall having a photo of me looking like that.
It's from Son of Nosferatu. I know that. You were doing, I think you were getting some makeup happening.
Oh, okay.
It went from that, which I love.
You made the eyes bigger or something. You did.
Yes, they are. Then that happens, and I notice it after I'm done. that's quasi-caricature-like in a lot of the things I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was wonderful too. I'm glad you brought
Good.
that. Mm-hmm.
I am a quasi-caricature. So, boys and girls.
Yeah, I do want to real quickly. It's the dance of reality.
Oh my God.
That's the
me
film
on the left. That's me in the spotlight. What? The Dance of Reality.
That's the new Jodorowsky film.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh God, I thought you were talking about me.
No, there's no reality involved here.
Sorry. Yes, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for talking to us again.
Oh, it's like fuck off now, isn't it? Okay.
I was trying to do polite. I actually thought that's where you're going earlier when you.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of edging my way out after.
Yeah. And so you had to bring attention to me.
3/4 effing hours. I hope we've covered the musical stuff.
I think we have very well.
We haven't talked about my equipment, man.
Okay.
My software.
I didn't know where we were going there for a minute. I don't know.
There will be people that say, "Oh no, but Tim didn't talk about what soft synth he used on, track 8 of Dream Orphans." Well, fuck off. Sorry.
They'll get over it.
I have noticed you're a Mac man. You like the
Yes.
I've been everyone I talk to, because we do a lot of videos, Annabelle and I, and we don't get them out as quickly as we'd like to, and everyone tells me I should get a Mac to do the editing.
You can't say fairer than that, can you?
I think that says it all. Yeah.
Get a Mac or you die. What do you?
So, what are some places people can find your music? Give it out to the crowd, because it is. I know a lot of people are loving it. So let them know where to get it.
Oh gosh. Well, actually, quite a lot of it isn't actually available.
There is a Tim and Mo Bandcamp site.
Yes, you could do that one. Mm-hmm. Or there's a Tim Dry Reverb Nation site. You can have a listen. But I am working my way towards creating an entire Facebook page for Tim Dry music with, availability of everything.
Very cool.
But I've never really.
If they follow you, they can pay attention to that and see when that comes up.
Yes, and they get a free pair of my used panties as a special sort of inductory offer.
I'm signing up right now.
Exactly. Prince. They're on that train.
That Bloody Mary sort of whiff as you waft past your nostrils. I smell the Worcester sauce.
He took Annabelle's suggestion with the spice you said to put in the
yes. You know what? You guys are fantastically weird, and I love you both.
Well, we love you. Well, I do. Anyway.
We love you as well. I do, absolutely. Tim, you're always a pleasure to talk with. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I brought this up on actually my very first convention. I didn't really know very many people, and you were very nice to me, and as well as several other people were, and it was very cool. And we've been friends ever since.
And here we are.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, I'd like to say you're both stars, and thank you very much for having me as a guest yet again on your fabulous show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sure we'll have you back.
We do love to have you, and I'm sure you will be back.
Yes.
I am available for bar mitzvahs, socials, and children's parties.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Love you both. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Mark Blackie of Disappointed Virginity. You're listening to Without Your Head.